Hey everyone, it's Ashley Anderson with Twin Spires, joined by Nick Tammaro, who you'll recognize from Twin Spires expert pick videos. He's a handicapper, track announcer, and the morning line maker for the Breeders' Cup at Keeneland this weekend. How are you doing today, Nick?
I'm doing great, Ashley. Glad to join you to talk about a couple of these races. Certainly a lot of excitement in the air for the Breeders' Cup, and I'm ready to get rolling.
Absolutely. Well, we got 14 grade one races on tap, and let's focus on the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile Race 3 on Saturday. We've got an excellent field of 11, including two Kentucky Derby starters from this year, Cyberknife and Simplification. But the morning line favorite is number 7, Cody's Wish at 5-2. Tell me, what do you like about this horse, Nick?
I think it's the consistency. He's been very solid throughout 2022, going back to 2021 when he was kind of relocated to Kentucky. His form really improved quite a bit. He's hinted at having pretty serious ability last year. And, I think from the challenger earlier this year at Tampa, he's progressively gotten better. And that streak of good races culminated with a win last time out over Jackie's Warrior. So it felt to me, based on speed figures, a little bit on race flow, like the public will probably gravitate towards Cody's Wish the most. He was not hurt by the post positions at all. He's in the 7, obviously, in a 12-horse field, going that little bit tricky mile. It's an 11-horse field, actually, going the mile at Keeneland where they hit the turn a little bit early. So, it wasn't obviously the exercise of making the morning line is about trying to accurately predict what the public's going to do. And I think ultimately the public will settle on Cody's Wish. And even if that means I'm not necessarily wild about betting on him myself, I don't think he's without chance, but I do think the public will favor him most.
Well, he has been excelling at 7 furlongs. Do you have any concern with this two-turn mile?
I think always when you're dealing with a horse that's been at his best around one turn, you're a little concerned about the two-turn configuration. That's one of the oddities of the two-turn mile in this particular situation. He's obviously got a lot of talent. He's gone two turns once before. It was in that challenger at Tampa that I mentioned for March. He ran very well in there also, broke slowly, and then got himself into position before losing a stretch-long battle to Scalding, who at the time was actually really good and was really hot, pun intended. And so I don't think there's any shame for Cody's Wish to have run second there. But yeah, I mean, he definitely gives up a little bit of two-turn experience to the likes of Laurel River and Cyberknife.
Well, speaking of Cyberknife, with his Haskell win, he could have entered the Breeders' Cup Classic, but Connections thought this was a better chance for a victory in the dirt mile. He's cutting back to a mile. He hasn't run that distance. So how do you feel about his chances here?
I picked Cyberknife on top, so I like him. I think he's an excellent fit. I think he got a little out of position last time out in the Pennsylvania Derby after not breaking all that great. He really doesn't want to be that far back. We're not talking about a big one-run closer. What really had made Cyberknife dangerous throughout his career is his ample tactical speed. So I think being a little bit more forwardly placed is really going to help his chances quite a bit. Brad Cox over the last 5 years in graded stakes going long on the dirt at Keeneland is 13 for 31 with a $3.40 ROI. He's obviously also won 8 Breeders' Cup races, all in the last 4 years. So it's been a good run for this barn. And I think this horse is really positioned ideally on the outside where he can stalk that pace and maybe get the jump on some of the deeper closers.
But, the other Derby runner, Simplification, finished better in the Derby than Cyberknife. I think its Simplification is 15-1 on the morning line. Do you think that maybe we can see an upset here with Simplification, or are you kind of fading that horse?
I think if you're looking outside of the sort of big 4 odds wise, which are Cody's Wish, Goodnight, Laurel River, and Cyberknife, it's definitely Simplification, who I think probably deserves more credit for his effort last time out in the Pennsylvania Derby than he's gotten. He actually ran pretty well, and it's admirable. He's a horse who seems to fire just about every single time. And I think getting a little time off in the summer, coming back now for a later year engagement has really helped. So there was very little separating he and Cyberknife last time out, and he probably did more running given how much closer he was to the pace. So I think he rates to get a really nice trip a couple of lengths off the lead. I think his very best efforts do make him a contender. I just wonder if when push comes to shove, he's a little bit better in South Florida, and if that might be a little bit too much for him to overcome.
Let's look at another 3-year-old, Goodnight, who is coming off a 7 furlong win at Keeneland, moving up in class here. Do you feel like this might be too big a jump for this horse?
Ashley, I'm a little torn on Gnight. I don't know exactly how to handle him. His race in the Perryville last time out was very, very good. He made a bunch of overmatched rivals look ordinary, and he's a horse who's obviously gotten a lot better as a 3-year-old. I would not have predicted he would be grade 1 caliber as a 3-year-old after seeing him run in the Champagne last year. But credit to the Steve Asmussen barn, which has just done incredibly well with these horses getting better as they get into their 3 and 4-year-old seasons. I don't think the mile is going to be a problem. I don't think the 2-turn configuration will be a problem. I do think he'll use his speed to get a little bit close as well, and likely try and beat everybody to the punch that might want to make a little bit later move. So I felt like I priced him fairly at 7-2. He's a horse that's obviously coming back on short rest and trying to do something that's a little tougher than what he's ever done before. So I think you'll get a fair bit of value at that price if you're a believer.
And as far as we got some pretty big lawn shots like Slow Down Andy, do you see any of these horses factoring in exotics that you're going to play?
I mean, I think the horse that I could probably see going off a relatively big price that has some chance is Senor Buscador, who won the ACAC at Churchill and was a decent price that day. One off 6-1, should be roughly 2 to 3 times that this time around. He's been successful around 2 turns. I don't want to hold the San Diego against him. I don't think he really got a particularly fair run in there. He's had some trouble getting out of the gate, which it looked like he got over last time out at Churchill. So I think he could make noise. I always try and give a little nod to Uriah St. Louis, who has Informative in here. Informative did not get the right ride last time. He was much too close to the pace in the Woodward. He was chasing Life is Good. It was probably never going to be the right kind of setup. So maybe with a one-run drop back style, he can get in there for 3rd or 4th. But it would be hard to envision anybody outside those big 4 really contending for the win.
All right. Well, any other insider expertise thoughts on the dirt mile?
If I can find you an insider, I'll let you know. I kid. No, the horse that I would probably, want to discuss, and I think from a handicapping perspective, he's really the kind of an enigmatic horse is Laurel River. So, I don't know exactly how to handle him. He was very, very good in the Pat O'Brien. I went back and watched the replay a few times when I was making the odds, and he's a horse who's really gotten better when they moved him out in distance, both around 2 turns and around 1 turn. I think there's a collective, I don't know what the right word is. I would say fear about whether he can come back off the layoff at this level and take the tougher competition. But what we've seen so far is awfully impressive. So I'm going to have a hard time betting against him. I'll include him in any of my multi-race plays, and I think at the right price, he could represent the most value in the field.
And Baffert is dangerous in the Breeders' Cup.
Always.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Nick. I appreciate you giving us your thoughts on the dirt mile. And be sure to head to twinspires.com or download the TwinSpires app to bet the Breeders' Cup this weekend, and check out our bet back promo where you'll get up to $10 back on your win bet if your horse places 2nd or 3rd in all races at Keeneland this weekend. Good luck.